you're unmuted.
Good morning, everyone. The quarterly meeting of the Executive Committee for the Louisiana Developmental Disability Council will now come to order. How's everybody doing this morning? Great. Ms. Ebony, could you please call the roll for attendance?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Jill Hayno. Present. Ms. Angela Harmon.
Present.
Ms. Brooke Stewart. Present. Ms. Renata Washington. Present. And Ms. Christy Gonzalez.
Present.
You have 5 and you have a quorum.
Thank you. At this time, we will have Ebony read the mission statement and the ground rules, please.
The Louisiana Developmental Disabilities Council's mission statement is to increase independence, self-determination, productivity, integration, and inclusion for Louisianians with developmental disabilities by engaging in advocacy, capacity building, and systems change. I can keep going to the ground rules.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. The ground rules are members must be recognized by the chair before speaking, be respectful of each other's opinions, break for 10 minutes every 1.5 hours, discuss council business in a responsible manner, except as necessary, restrict the use of electronic communication, i.e. texting, during council and committee meetings, silence or turn off all cell phones. The mission statement is posted at every meeting, be on time for meetings, no alphabets, and side conversations are kept to a minimum, done quietly and restricted to the subject area.
Thank you, Ebony. At this time, I will read the virtual meeting protocol. Here are the rules and protocol. For committee members and members of the public attending in person, please raise your hand to speak and wait to be recognized by the chair before speaking. To help the meeting run smoothly, please keep side conversations to a minimum and comments related to the topic we are discussing. For those committee members who are attending virtually, remember you must be on camera and have your first and last name showing to be counted toward our quorum. Please keep microphones muted unless called upon by the chair. Electronically raise your hand to request to speak and wait to be called on by the chair. For attendees, electronically raise your hand to request to speak. Once recognized by the chair, your microphone will be turned on. After speaking, the microphone will be returned to mute. Also, the Q&A is only to be used by those needing an ADA accommodation to participate in the meeting. Public comment will not be accepted via the Q&A except for those individuals who have requested the accommodation. As for order, committee members in person and virtually will be allowed to speak first. Public members in person will then be called on, followed by the public participating virtually who have their hands raised. Comments in the Q&A and chat will be addressed last. As with all hybrid meetings, it can be difficult to keep track of all those wanting to speak in person and virtually. Please be patient with us. All comments and questions from committee members and the public may be limited should we run into time constraints, so please keep that in mind. Also, comments about a person's character will not be allowed. Finally, members of the public will have the opportunity to provide public comment before each vote and during designated public comment periods. Public members will be given 1 opportunity to speak for each agenda item and will be limited to 2 minutes. The chair may also use their discretion to determine if comments will be accepted outside of those times. Thank you.
Comment not related. But if it's from someone.
Ask a question about the room.
Is that okay?
Yeah,
The
that's
chair.
Can we have more like written?
I mean, the best I can do is undim,
Yeah. I mean.
but it's messing with the camera as part of the problem.
Everyone,
Okay with everybody?
like, that's not gonna mess you up, is it?
Oh, it's not messing me, just the lights interfere with the camera because of where we had to place it, but I
Oh,
don't
well,
know that it makes a big
I
impact.
don't wanna like. Can people see virtually?
They can see like how we see.
Okay.
this.
Okay, cool.
Thanks. The next item of business is the approval of the meeting summary for the October 16th Executive Committee meeting, which was distributed. The meeting summary will not be read unless a member requests it. Are there any corrections to be made? If there are no objections, the meeting summary is approved as distributed. Hearing none, the meeting summary is approved. The next item of business is an update of the 2025 legislative advocacy agenda.
Oh, there's nothing in
There's
the
nothing?
package.
Okay.
for-
I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
The next item is the consideration
Oh,
of.
wait, Christie,
I'm sorry.
I can
You have
take
it? Oh,
over,
please
yeah.
do. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna give you guys an update on
No,
the
that's fine.
advocacy agenda. So I know that we have some new, our special guests here today, so I'm just gonna
Yeah,
go
that's fine.
over the, process of how you guys got to the advocacy agenda. So in October, every October, the council votes on what they are going to advocate for the next session. And so, in October, the council voted for 2 agenda items. The council solicits community input from our regional LACAN membership, and LACAN is our Louisiana Council's advocacy network. All around the state, we have our regional membership, our LACAN leaders solicit input, and then our LACAN leaders and our Families Helping Families directors meet, and they prioritize that community input to make a recommendation to the council. So this year we did something a little different, or last year we did something a little different, where we created an additional ad hoc committee, the Legislative Advocacy Agenda Ad Hoc Committee, so that the council could receive that input from the FHF directors and the LACAN leaders before the October meeting, where they had to take a vote. And we wanted to make sure we got public input as well. So the Legislative Advocacy Ad Hoc Committee made 2 recommendations to the council, and the council accepted that recommendation and voted in October for the 2 legislative agenda items to include recurring funding for our Families Helping Families Center. That's the $500,000 that we have advocated for the last 4 years. And then the second item was to protect disability services. At the time when the council recommended that item, we were facing a fiscal cliff, and the budget deficit was about $400 to $700 million. So, the House Appropriations Committee asked LDH to meet with them to look at $100 million cut. And so the cuts that they proposed would affect individuals with disabilities dramatically. So the council did vote to add that agenda item to their 2025 legislative advocacy agenda. However, the legislature met in November. They had a special session, and they did some tax reforms. The legislators voted to reduce personal and corporate income taxes. They repealed some tax exemptions, and they increased the state sales tax by 0.55%. So at this, I'll say the revenue estimating committee who looks at our revenue and estimates whether there's going to be a budget downfall or not. They met in December, and their estimates was that for next year, for the FY26 budget, we're not going to have a budget downfall. They've addressed it in the special session. However, the administration is still looking at government efficiency, which will likely result in a reduced budget for LDH. Maybe not that $100 million budget deficit, but they are looking at government efficiencies. And so LDH and higher education, they're always on, those optional Medicaid services are always ones that they target. So we believe it's important to still advocate, even though the budget deficit has been addressed. We believe that it's still important for us to advocate to the legislature, just to make sure that they're aware of disability services. Medicaid covers more than what they think. We want to make sure that they know the impacts that the disability community could face if there are cuts in those optional Medicaid services. So just kind of wanted to give you guys an update about that. We're taking like a different, I guess, a different outlook on it when we're presenting it at the roundtables. It's not gonna be like these are on the chopping block. It's more gonna be educating the legislators about what Medicaid services are optional, what Medicaid services our disability community uses, and just making sure they're educated and know that the decisions that they're making for those government efficiencies may have an impact on our community. So does anybody have any questions?
The next item is the consideration of the council ad hoc committees. Currently, the two ad hoc committees are the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Ad Hoc Committee and the Grievance Ad Hoc Committee.
So if you guys look in your packets, we do have all of the, a list of all of the DD Council, standing committees and our ad hoc committees. We wanted to kind of talk about this today with the executive committee because the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, that committee was established to basically create a position for the council, which you guys have done. And they also wanted the council to undergo a DEI training, which the council did. The staff has completed the training as well. And so we wanted to, we feel like the mission has been accomplished for that particular committee. So we're recommending that that committee be dissolved. And so we just wanted to bring it to the executive committee, because we feel like the mission and the goal of that committee has been accomplished.
Just to like give y'all some background since I am apparently the senior on the senior division of the council, but neither one of these committees have met since pre-COVID.
Well, no, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee met, I want to say, I know at least 2020.
Okay, my
2020,
bad,
yeah.
aligned,
Yeah.
aligned,
Yeah, we had the trainings last year.
okay.
Yeah, so the trainings, we completed the trainings in 24.
Yep.
Yeah, so we did the DEI training in 2024, the staff and the
August, matter of
council. And, we feel like the goal the goal of that committee and
Has been met?
yes, has been met. And so before we took it off, we wanted to just make sure that the executive committee was in agreement. And that you guys don't feel further need to continue with it.
So that's just with the diversity and the grievance?
No, so the grievance is different.
Okay.
Jill is absolutely right. That particular committee has not met since prior to COVID. So I know we were having some transition within our council staff as far as the executive director. And we were advised by our technical assistants to make sure that finding an executive director was priority. So all of the committees had to be put on hold. So that particular committee has not met since COVID. And they did not accomplish their mission, which was to come out with a grievance policy for the council. So I do believe that that particular committee needs to stay, but as you can see, the stars by the members' names represent members that are not a part of the council. And just being that that particular committee has not met since prior to COVID, I would suggest that you revamp it, seek new volunteers for that particular committee. And I'm also recommending that they don't meet until after legislative session.
Any other questions? At this time, we'll entertain a motion to recommend discharging the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Ad Hoc Committee.
Make a motion.
Is there a motion to
Remove the
diversity?
diversity, equity, and inclusion ad hoc committee.
Okay. Is there a second?
I say.
Ms. Renata? Do we have a second on the motion? Discharge the diversity, equity, and inclusion ad hoc committee? Or is there any discussion from council members?
I'm sorry, who's the second?
Any public comment?
So I mean,
And I will make that very, I'm sorry, I just wanted to type it out.
Go ahead, Mr. Eric.
I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
I know you gotta leave the better beginning, just. Y'all get ready.
We can have an ad hoc committee anytime that we feel, but they haven't, the objectives that they had put together for that committee have all been completed. So, but we can put a committee together anytime we feel the need for it. Okay. So the question is, recommending discharging the diversity, equity, and inclusion ad hoc committee. Ms. Ebony, let me go ahead with the vote.
So, oh,
There's a,
Oh,
okay.
We lowered it.
oh, okay.
So a vote of yes would be, to discharge the diversity, equity, and inclusion committee. A vote of no would be not to discharge, and then you can abstain. So Ms. Jill Hano,
yes,
Ms. Jill Hano, yes. Ms. Angela Harmon.
Yeah.
Ms. Angela Harmon, yes. Ms. Brooke Stewart.
yes,
Ms. Brooke Stewart, yes. Ms. Renata Washington.
Yeah.
Ms. Renata Washington, yes. It's 4 yeses.
Okay.
Zero.
The yes votes have it and the motion is adopted. Do you want to go ahead and do the grievance one as well?
Recommending that you keep the grievance
Keep it, we
ad
just
hoc.
need to,
I recommend
revise
that
it.
tomorrow,
Okay.
when the full council meets, you ask for volunteers for that
Okay.
particular committee so that we can,
Revise and.
revise
regroup?
it, yeah, update it. I mean, we can still reach out to the members that are listed here to see if they're still interested in
Okay.
participating, but like I said, it's been
Yeah.
a while.
Yes, not a
Um,
problem.
so I'm not sure if they're still interested or not.
Okay. The next item of business is the quarterly executive director evaluation. We really don't have,
did we do one?
but everything was positive. We talked with, Ebony, we got feedback from, the items from the retreat.
So I can answer
Oh, go
her
ahead.
question.
Yes.
So Jill, we're working on revamping the survey. So I know you're thinking of the survey that y'all gotten the last 2 times. So Christy this time asked for feedback from the executive committee. Instead of sending the survey, because we're actively revamping the survey based on the policies and procedures that you guys passed at the October.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but the only thing I was asked for feedback on was the retreat.
Because that was the only, thing that we had,
Okay,
yeah, thing that we wanted to do that we needed to improve, so,
okay.
yeah. Right? Anything else, Ebony? You wanna?
I don't have any, if you guys wanna discuss it,
it was wonderful. We did get some feedback and we will address that.
Back on.
Okay.
Nope, I think the participants are still on.
Sorry, everyone. I don't think they can hear me. We're having technical issues.
Be good to go.
Okay, 70.
Okay, so the only announcements that I have are the addition. The SDCI total from two.
Thank you very much. Is there any other further business? Hearing none, if there's no objections, we will adjourn the meeting. Hearing no objections, the meeting